Now we're ready for our conversation. Over to you, Uche.
Thank you. For decades, Nigeria has struggled with an unresolved divide between polytechnics and universities, as we see cases of polytechnic graduates still being treated differently from their university counterparts. Now, joining us this morning to give us more insight on this is our guest, Professor Gozie Owodo. He's a seasoned academic and administrator with years of experience from the Faculty of Law, University of Benin, to Godfrey Okoye University, Enugu, where he served as Dean, Faculty of Law, and he's currently the Rector of Institute of Management and Technology, Enugu, here to give us a unique perspective from both the university and polytechnic systems to our conversation. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here.
Good morning.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. Now, having spent significant years in the university system before taking on the leadership of IMT, how would you personally compare the university and polytechnic experience in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. What I have now is a very good combination of university experience as a tertiary institution and now polytechnic. And the good thing is that we are in the premier polytechnic in the entire southeast Nigeria. IMT was a trailblazer for all the polytechnics we have in the southeast. And so what we have seen now is two systems that were very well intended to complement each other. Whereby the university system was focused more on the theoretical aspects of learning and making sure that students who went to university were skilled in the knowledge. But the Polytechnic was originally conceived as that tertiary institution where students will come and have hands-on skills. And so it was supposed to be, on the one hand, skills-oriented, more emphasis on skills acquisition. In other words, teaching and doing. And so that's what it's supposed to be. But along the line, it appeared that we lost focus. And it now seemed like university and the polytechnics were doing the same thing. Paying less emphasis on skills acquisition. And I can tell you what, it may also be the root cause of our present high rate of unemployment. Because many of these graduates, whether they are coming from the university system or whether they are coming from the polytechnics, all come out with the same degrees and diplomas, and are all seeking for jobs that are non-existent. If the polytechnic students were properly trained and guaranteed skills, they will come out not as job seekers, but as job creators. And so we're doing everything we can now to reset the paradigm. As a matter of fact, my campaign in IMT today is the new IMT. The new IMT where every student is supposed to graduate with one diploma and one skill. And that's what we're campaigning. That whatever you're studying, you must graduate with your diploma, whether it's national diploma or higher national diploma, as well as one skill. So that once you graduate and come out, you will not be looking for the non-existent jobs. You will rather have enough skills to go out there and start your own business. At the very minimum, be self-employed. And potentially, you can then employ others. And hopefully, that will help us to address this issue of the rising unemployment rate in the country.
All right. You're just talking about skill acquisition and all that. We would like to understand how imperative is this skill acquisition when it comes to national development?
It is indispensable. Imperative is understatement. It is indispensable because the country needs it. We need it to increase our productivity rates. Everything we're talking about in Nigeria is the fact that we're not producing. And because we're not producing, we have now become the consumer country. Consumer of everything imported, down to toothpick, everything. And so it is indispensable if we must reset our educational system, reset our national development, and emphasize more on skills acquisition so that our students can come out and begin to produce, begin to do something to add to our productivity rate. It doesn't matter what. We import almost everything in the country. And that also explains why our Naira is currently undervalued. Because if you look at the exchange rate, it's increasing every day. And the reason is simply because we're importing so much and we don't have enough foreign exchange to keep importing. And yet we all depend on imported goods when we can produce some. And by producing some, we can at least save our country from importing those things, number one. Number two, we can at the same time now use it to create employment. Number three is that if we begin to perfect whatever we're doing, we can then confidently begin to look for ways to export them and earn the foreign exchange. So you can see the three advantages. That's why I say it's indispensable. We must reset the paradigm.
All right, now I want to take us back a bit to look at what was the original rationale behind creating two parallel higher education systems in Nigeria in the first place, us having universities and polytechnics. At what point, did we have that divide?
Well, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. This is a common thing. I studied in the US, and if you go to other parts of the world, it's a common thing. You have technical schools, which we call TVET schools, technical vocational educational training schools. And what I'm saying is that, so many of these expatriates you see, many of them that we call engineers are not engineers. Engineers in the sense that they went to universities and studied engineering. No, these guys went to technical schools and learned the hands-on about how to do the work in the engineering field. But ask them to bring the official engineering degree. They may not have it. But you can see that they can do the job because they were trained hands-on. And that's what it's all about, skills.
So at what point did the perception of inferiority now come in between polytechnics and universities?
Well, my dear, I can't tell you I know exactly when it started, but I can tell you that it's all part of our national policy, which for some reason started discriminating between holders of degrees from the universities and holders of diplomas from the polytechnics. For instance, in the employment system, they used to employ degree holders, and place them at a higher level and at a higher pay. And so you find somebody who went to the Polytechnic who, by the way, spent more years than the first degree holder who studied any program in the university for 4 years. But the Polytechnic system is anybody who graduated with a higher national diploma spent 5 years. 2 years at the national diploma, then 1 whole year for the industrial training before you can come back and enroll for the higher national diploma. So by the time the HND guy comes out, he has spent 5 years. And the bachelor's holder spent 4 years. Yet, when they go out to seek employment, they will employ the degree holder higher, pay him higher than the person who spent 5 years. So you can now see how we created this discrimination by our employment policy, unwittingly. And now it has turned out to haunt us. But there's good news. And the good news is that the federal government, MBTE, all the agencies have now fought and they have harmonized this. They have harmonized it. So that's the beginning. I guess we came to the point where we realized that we were causing ourselves national disservice by doing that. So they have now resolved it, and it's now harmonized.
All right. So recently, there's been a debate about top-up degree for polytechnic universities and NUC pushback. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, my take on that is a very good thing. What is top-up? Top-up is simply saying that if you have a HND, you can now enroll in any program and spend 1 extra year or 2 extra years, depending, and that's the top up, and now earn that additional qualification without having to go back and start from the scratch. Because somebody with ND degree, diploma or HND has advanced knowledge in the field. The person has advanced knowledge in the field. And more importantly, that person with ND degree or HND is more experienced than the students who study theoretically without having any hands-on experience. So top up is good. It's an incentive. And I'm happy that many polytechnics are doing, and IMT is already working on including it in our programs.
Now, speaking on the discrimination that polytechnic students or HND or OND users, people that have the certificate, get in the workplace, what do you think that the public sector and the private sector are ready to embrace polytechnic graduates on equal terms, even with this new reform that you're talking about? Do you think that it's something that will actually be practical when you get to workplaces?
Well, I think it will be. For starters, anybody who discriminates against any applicant now can attract a lawsuit. So legally speaking, the employer can be sued for employment discrimination. Number one. Number two is that every employer is looking for that potential staff who can deliver. The days of certificates, as far as we're concerned, is gone. Everybody is now looking, who is that person who claims to have studied English and can come and speak good English? Who is that person that studied law and can come and prove that he has the basic rudimentary of a good lawyer? Who is that person that studied engineering that can come and justify that he or she indeed studied this field of engineering and can deliver? And so it's no longer the days of, I can tell you, and that is why many people are unemployed today. Many, I hope you guys know that the rate of unemployment is very high. But the challenge is not that there are not enough jobs for all these people. The challenge is that many of these people are not employable. You call an interview, and for instance, you want to employ 5 persons in a particular field, and you attract maybe 50 persons, and you're looking for just 10%. And you'll be surprised that you may not find 1% after conducting the interview. Because many of them will come there and they can't justify the certificates that they're brandishing. And that is the challenge today in almost every field. In almost every field. And so every employer is looking for who is that potential staff who can deliver on the job. Doesn't matter the nomenclature of the qualification. Somebody told me recently that in the 80s, that every employer in the engineering field will always take an IMT graduate, because in the 80s, IMT engineering students were tops all over the country. Once you come and say from IMT, you're employed. And so that's what that era. And I'm telling you that that's the era where they all knew that an IMT student was well trained, both in the theory and more importantly, in the skills of operating any machine, because they had everything they needed. And so they received very good training. And the employers were just grabbing them as they were graduating.
All right, so many countries like, say, China, Singapore, and say Germany has actually adopted these models, and we are seeing the effect of these TVET systems. Why is it that a country like Nigeria has refused or say failed to adopt these models, seeing the benefits?
Well, it's not refused. It's just, national development comes in phases. It depends on when the government realizes that this is the way to go. But I can tell you something, the Nigerian government is now keen in. There's aggressive introduction of TVET programs and encouraging students in polytechnics to, like I said, our new mantra in IMT is one diploma, one skill. And as we speak now, we have my deputy and his team are presently in Germany under the GIZ TVET program. They've been there now, I think they'll be there for 1 month. Okay? And so we've sent them to Germany, and when they come back now, they will help us to train the other people in IMT. But they are there currently.
So to what extent do resource gaps in terms of funding, staffing, and facilities, do you think, do they play a role or do they contribute to this perceived inferiority of polytechnics?
Oh, well, it's a general problem. Like I said, I've been in the university system from University of Benin to Godfrey Okoye, and it's still the challenge of funding. You can never have enough money. But the good news is the intervention of TED Fund. I can tell you without TED Fund, we would have been in a bigger problem in terms of funding our tertiary institutions. And so it's something that we are all coping with. And yes, it's a very major challenge because there are some of these equipments that you need to acquire. And now, again, because we don't manufacture them here, you have to now order them with foreign exchange. And with the exchange rates, it can become so exorbitant. And so what we are doing now in IMT is that we are looking at all the equipments which we have, which over the years have not been well serviced, maintained, and we are now trying to see how we can service them, maintain them, and reactivate them. Because these are all brand name equipments that were acquired when Nigeria was buoyant. You see brand names like Rolls-Royce, you see brand names like Dell, you see brand names like Mercedes and all that. And so that's what we're trying to do currently.
All right, apart from financing, there are still issues of budgeting. You know, we see that the federal and state budgets consistently prioritize universities over polytechnics. How do you think this thing can be corrected, even factoring in policy?
Well, it can be corrected. And I think from my interaction now with the new Minister of Education, Honorable Alausa, I think that the man is determined to balance the funding. The man is determined to make sure that every segment feels like they are well appreciated, and he's making sure that nobody wants to feel that they are underperforming because they're underfunded. And so from what I see, they're doing so very well. And again, I must compliment the TED Fund for what they're doing. Their intervention is helping us tremendously, providing all these equipments, helping us with training and all that. And that's helping to complement the support of the state government. You know, IMT is a state polytechnic, and the state government is doing so very well in terms of subvention and support logistics.
Right. Now, since your appointment as director of IMT, what has been your main agenda for the institution? I know you've said the one diploma, one skill, but aside that, what other things are you putting in place?
Thank you very much. You know, that forces me now to give you a little bit of our scorecard. I was appointed last year, November, and when we started, I took what we call academic audit of the entire programs in IMT. And I discovered, to my dismay, that majority of our programs had lost, or rather, had expired accreditation status. And so we needed to embark on the reaccreditation of these programs, as many as 70% of them. And we immediately tackled them, because I know from my experience that any program that has lost accreditation, and yet you're still running that program, training students under that program, is analogous to any doctor or pharmacist who is dispensing expired drugs. And so I didn't want to be associated with that. And so I immediately declared a state of emergency with respect to academic programs. And we started from there. I'm happy to report that in April this year, we subjected all those programs to re-accreditation. And we successfully re-accredited all of them, full accreditation for all those programs. And so that's the starting point for us. And I think that was also foundational, because any tertiary institution is an institution where you must have valid programs, accredited programs, so that what you are dispensing to the students will be valid knowledge. And so that was the first thing we did. And then we now started tackling all the other issues. For instance, when I came, I noticed that the students were not particularly disciplined, with their dressing. And I, coming from Gulf University, I could not tolerate it. And so I also tackled the issue of dress code. Today, every IMT student appears in IMT in their departmental uniform. And they look decent. They look like serious students. And it helps to maintain the academic culture. So that's the second thing we've tackled. We're also working on the issue of academic corruption, popularly called sorting. And I have been tackling that seriously. And today we have a popular saying in IMT that both the sorter and the sorted will be penalized. So all my students know this slang in IMT today. And the whole idea is to let them know it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. If you as a student initiate it, if you as a lecturer allow yourself to be, I will discipline both of you. And we're tackling that. So we're doing that, and we're also looking at the infrastructural aspect. The hostels which were abandoned, we are renovating them. For the first time in IMT, we were able to connect IMT to the water board. And today IMT receives water. We built the water storage tank where we store water now, and make sure that we have constant supply of water to the students in the hostel. So we are doing all that, and we are also working on the beautification of IMT. As we speak now, we want to start working on the beautification. Anybody who has passed IMT recently will attest to the fact that there is a new IMT. That front tells the story that there is a new IMT. And so we want to now cascade it from that front to every part of IMT and make sure that it looks something as close as what I'm used to.
All right, that was very, very insightful. But then is there some kind of provision for, say, scholarship, sponsorship, or partnership from different organizations that actually can enable others who cannot afford the required, money, so to say, or fees for the school?
Very good. Yes, we're working on that too. Even though our fees are very, very reasonable compared to all the other tertiary institutions. But despite that, the good news is that, again, the NEL fund, the federal government introduced NEL fund, the students' NEL fund, where they pay students' fees, and that's helping many of them. They pay their fees now, and that helps many of them. In addition to that, we're also engaging other partners in linkages. We have a partnership with this agency in New York, providing opportunities and scholarship for students in mass communication. So they are training them, they are supporting them, and they are also promising them jobs. In addition to that, we have other partnerships where, as we expose the students, they get scholarship. For instance, we have entered into a partnership with Dewdrop Hospitality, and IMT has now established the IMT Dewdrop Hospitality Academy, where we're training hospitality specialists who will be certified by the City and Guilds of England. So anybody who goes through that academy can work in any hospitality facility in the world. As a matter of fact, when His Excellency the Governor of Enugu State commissioned the new hotel presidential, if you listen to that speech, he referenced the IMT Dewdrop Hospitality Academy as one of the feeder hospitality academies that will service all the hospitality facilities that he's establishing in Enugu State. So we have done that. We also partnering with the AfriHub in America, AfriHub. and we're establishing the IMT AfriHub Tech Academy. Again, students in this academy will be trained in ICT and will be youth certified from AfriHub in America. That way, the students can work for international tech companies and be paid in foreign exchange from Nigeria. And that's another thing that we have done. And we have so many of these partnerships that we're working on.
Wow, that's quite a lot. And that's really good to hear. But let's also look at, since we're talking on this divide between Polytechnic and universities, how are you helping IMT compete on equal footing with universities? Now, not just with the skill acquisitions, but in terms of curriculum and also the students' motivation, because there is this conception even among the students that those with degrees are better than they are. So aside from the certificates and the skills, what about in terms of curriculum and also the students as well and their mindsets?
Well, thank you very much again. You see, let me clearly spell this out. In IMT now, we have a variety of programs. I use the word variety. We have the MD program, the National Diploma Program. We have the Higher National Diploma Program. Many people don't know that we also run a degree program in IMT in partnership with the University of Nigeria. And now we're about to establish the top-up program. And so when I use the word variety, our students have choices. Either you start with the ND program, and you can now continue with the HND, or you can continue with our degree program with the University of Nigeria. And so we have an environment where our students have choices on their career path. But in addition to that, we're also working on the mindset of students. And I can tell you that the average IMT student is a very, very proud student. That's someone that many of them are confident, many of them are assertive, and they know what they want. They know what they want. There are students in IMT who are studying fine arts, and they will tell you that they know they are going to be internationally acclaimed for what they are doing in fine arts. Okay? As a matter of fact, I remember when I was taking on a tour of the new hotel presidential, and I saw a young lady who was doing a brush painting of the governor's portraits. And I watched this beautiful piece of art. And we were standing, just watching her doing the brush painting of the governor's portrait. Intuitively, I approached the young lady. I said, young lady, that's a good job you're doing. By the way, where did you study fine arts? And she said, in IMT. Apparently, she didn't know me because she had graduated before I came. And the people who were leading me on the tour now asked her, do you know this man? She said, no. I said, that's your new rector in IMT. And the young lady hugged me and asked them to start taking pictures with me and all that. But she was the one handling all the portraits in Hotel Presidential. Young girl. And what am I saying? She's already making her name. Huh? Because she studied fine arts in IMT and is still one of the best in the country. She knows that the skies are limit. And so it's a question of making sure that students pursue careers in the areas where they are most motivated. Where you want to be a fine artist, you want to be a hospitality specialist, you want to be an ICT specialist. IMT, as you all know, is also fantastically good in mass communication. And so, do you want to be a world-renowned journalist? Come to IMT. And what I'm saying, that the average IMT student who knows exactly what he or she wants to study is confident. And I don't think we need to do a lot of work with that. All I think we need to do is to make sure that we give them the tools, the academic and the infrastructural tools, and they will keep excelling.
All right. For a practical example, we actually can see these graduates that have gone through the four walls of universities, of polytechnics. Some of them we can see them in markets, some are in streets, some are selling. And then why some have the mentality of Japa syndrome, that Nigeria has actually failed them, while some have the knowledge that school is scam. How do we convince these people that the economy can favor us and we can also get all the employment that we need in Nigeria?
Well, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, the Java syndrome, even though for those of us who are monitoring the developments in the world, you can see that all over the world, from Europe to America, there's an increasing policy to stop migration everywhere in the world. From UK to Germany to America, they are discouraging people from coming. And I think that what that will do for us is that as many people are discouraged from Japan, if there's anything like that, okay, they will be forced to look inwards. So what's the alternative? The alternative is, let us find a way to encourage these young ones to do what they can do well here and provide them with an enabling environment. Because I keep saying it, these Nigerians, when they jabber to any part of the world, you see them excelling there. And so it's not a question of that they don't have what it takes. It's just a question of the environment, giving them the incentive and the conduciveness to excel. That's what it is. You ask yourself, every international hospital in the world you go to, you find a Nigerian there. Everyone in the world I've been to. Every international organization, there are Nigerians in Harvard. There are Nigerians all over the place. As a matter of fact, anywhere you go and you don't find a Nigerian, then something is wrong. And so the question is, how is it that these same Nigerians who left the shores of Nigeria now travel to these parts of the world and they're excelling? So the conclusion is simply that we have what it takes to excel. If and only if we have the enabling environment, whether it is professional, whether it is industrial, whether it is academic, whatever you need to excel, because you really have what it takes. And so, in summary, I, on the other hand, believe that these anti-immigration policies will force us to harness our huge human capital resources in Nigeria. And I can tell you, once we start doing that, this country will turn out to be fantastically great.
Now, speaking of harnessing, all that we have, how is IMT embracing the recent changes when it comes to technology and technological advancements to reflect the demands of 21st century economy? Things like AI, fintech, renewable energy, and all the other emerging courses and departments that are coming up, with the rise of technology. How is IMT adapting or embracing these new additions?
Oh, we are doing very well, and I can tell you how. Firstly, in the accreditation process that we just concluded in April, we used the opportunity to apply for 9 new programs. One of them is computer engineering. And so what we have done is, from our existing computer program, we have now established computer engineering. And there we're going to be teaching them AI and all the new cutting-edge aspect of engineering and computer. So we have done that. And as a matter of fact, we're already admitting students for the new academic session into these new programs. In addition to that, we are aggressively attracting partners so that our students will just not learn. They have the opportunity to have practical experience. Okay? For example, we are about to conclude a partnership with Light Up Nigeria. Light Up Nigeria. And this is a national initiative where our students will be taught how to assemble, service, and specialize in renewable energy equipments. And so we are planning that they will come and establish right in IMT, and our students will be working with them. And very soon, we will now start exporting all the renewable energy facilities from IMT. And the same thing we're doing, like I already told you about the IMT Europe, I already told you about the IMT AfriHub Tech Academy, and Uli Furniture. Uli Furniture is already established in our industrial center, and Uli Furniture is a world-class furniture, working with our students, teaching them how to make modern furniture, and giving them the practical experience. Now, before I forget, we also established the German Center in IMT. The Germans came under the iSpeak Foundation, and we received them warmly, and today they established the German Center in IMT. Consequently, our students have the opportunity to learn German language inside IMT. Talk about preparing them for Jabba, if they must Jabba. So, we have the German Center now in IMT, and our staff, our students, they're all going there to learn German language.
All right. I see that IMT is doing so much to meet up to standards. But then how does IMT measure graduate success, and how do you publish employability metrics? Well,
you see, like I said before, this is the new IMT. The new IMT where we are trying to revitalize and reclaim some of our lost glory. And I can tell you that all these things that we have put in place and that we are still putting in place will translate to high employability rates. By this time next year, I can tell you how far we have come.
Now let's look at research and innovation when it comes to polytechnics. Where would you say that polytechnics generally stand when it comes to being included in major research grants and projects in Nigeria?
Polytechnics, like I said earlier on, the current Minister of Education is doing fantastically well to level the playing field. Okay? Everybody is getting the same attention in terms of research. But it's important for you to know that what the government can give in terms of research can never be enough. That is where innovative leadership comes in. Grants are sourced nationally, internationally. And so if you don't have a robust grant team that will be sourcing grants and attracting grants, then it will affect your ability to conduct research. And that's what we're doing now by establishing a dedicated grant team. People whose job will just be looking for grants everywhere they can, applying, pursuing, doing everything necessary to attract grants. Because the more grants you attract, the more funds you have for research and development.
But do you think that joint research projects between polytechnics and universities can help reduce the divide?
Oh, definitely. In fact, that's something that we've been preaching now, again coming from the minister, that there should be collaborative research. Collaborative. If, for instance, a university wants to conduct research in a field, and they know they don't have the equipment to fully conduct it. I mean, the IMT has, because we've been acquiring equipment for a long time. By the way, IMT is 52 years this year, on July 1st. So for 52 years, in our industrial center, we have many equipments. And so these universities can partner with us and have a more robust research outcome.
All right. So given that education is on concurrent legislative list, should the federal government take decisive constitutional measures to harmonize standards, or do you think the state still has what it takes to take care of both the universities and the polytechnics?
You know, some states will still want to have their state polytechnics and universities. And as a matter of fact, what we have today is that in every state in Nigeria, you have either one federal university and then many state and private universities and polytechnics. And so every state, they still want, because if you hand everything over to the federal government, then the states will lose some input in the development of the educational policy. And that is part of the reason they retain. Like, I understand that there has been so many efforts to make IMT a federal polytechnic in the previous years. But this is the pride of the Southeast. And any state government doesn't want to let go easily. It's like letting go of your jewel. You know? And so the point is that I wish that both federal and state governments will continue to pay the amount of attention and give the requisite support to the educational system. And let me use this opportunity now to thank our governor in a very special way. You see, what our governor has done in Enugu State is unprecedented. To allocate 33% of our entire budget to the education sector. That's even way more than the prescription of the United Nations. United Nations prescribes 25% and you are tops. But our governor, consistently, 33% of our state budget goes to education. And no state in Nigeria has ever done that. So you can now see his priority in education. And that is why you have all these interventions, from the smart schools to the universities to the polytechnics. Everybody can feel it. Because this is a governor whose priority is education. And he is bold enough to match his words with his funds.
Right. Now, Professor Obodo, looking at the skill acquisition, just like you mentioned, I'm just remembering the mantra that you've been saying: one diploma, one skill. I'm happy it's now. It's resonating now. I'm happy. Is there a way that this skill acquisition can be brought down to an informal level, where instead of people having to register and stay for 4 years or 5 years to be able to have these skills, maybe reduce it to, if it were 4 years, maybe to 1 month, or so that those who have an interest in learning things like welding or some of these informal skills can come in and learn? Don't you think it would help reduce the case of unemployment and even insecurity in the country?
Thank you. I'm happy to ask this question because it gives us the opportunity to clarify. All these partnerships that I have talked about are not meant to be a formal training system where the students will spend the number of years as if they are there to acquire a diploma. No. These are partnerships that we're establishing in IMT, which we hope that our IMT students, whether they're in the diploma program or in the higher national diploma program or in the degree program, can avail themselves. In other words, if you are studying computer science, for instance, and you want to end up with a HND in computer science, then we have the IMT AfriHub Tech Academy, where you can go there and be certified. So it's not about earning a degree or diploma. It's about going there and getting that American U certification. So when you now graduate with your HND in computer science, you have the U certification. Are you following me? The same thing with the hospitality. You are not coming to our hospitality academy to earn a diploma. You are coming there to get a certificate from the City and Guilds in UK. So you can enroll for the 6 months course. You can enroll for the short 3 months. You can enroll for the longer. They have different. And we're also trying to do the same thing too with the artisans, like the Uni Furniture, where we begin to certify some of the furniture makers in town. They already know how to make furniture. You need to come now and have a polished training and now be certificated. So the next time you go to a furniture maker, he will tell you, I am certified by the IMT Uli Furniture Academy. And that's something to be proud about. And I'm sure that his furniture will have a touch of class. So the summary of my response is, all these are not meant to keep the student there for a year or years. It's simply to come and get the certification within a very short period of time.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. But then, what is the role of the NUC and the NBTE in assuring that there is a balance between the polytechnics and the universities?
Well, as you know, NUC regulates the universities, NBTE regulates the polytechnics, and we're all under the umbrella of the Federal Minister of Education. That's why I keep referring to the Minister of Education, because he is in charge. These are all agencies under the Federal Minister of Education. NUC is an agency, NBT is an agency. And so we all have the same ministry overseeing everything we're doing. And it's a very, very good relationship. So far, so good. Very complimentary. Most of the time we attend meetings jointly and making sure that everything is harmonized.
Now, looking ahead, what is your long-term vision for IMT under your leadership, and apart from just IMT, for the education system, both universities and polytechnics?
For me, I'm just a rector today, and I think what I can do is to keep focusing my energy on how to create this new IMT of my dream. The IMT where we want to make sure that our students can, compete with other students in any part of the world. We want to make sure that we give them the good theoretical training and the practical training. We want to make sure that we emphasize the mindset of graduating with the mindset of not job seekers, but job creators. We want to make sure that we attract as many partners to IMT, both nationally and internationally, so that our students will have not just national exposure, but international exposure. Because we live in a global world today. What we do in Enugu State matters. And what our students can do in Enugu State will matter on the national scale and in the international scale. And so we are going to be doing that, and hopefully, create a truly new IMT, not just infrastructurally, but in the quality of our graduates and in the quality of our curriculum and the delivery of our curriculum. And, every time I'm reminded that IMT was modeled after the reputable MIT in US. I don't know if you know that. And so that for me is a burden. If IMT was modeled after the reputable MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, then we have a role model. We have a role model. And that is where I am aspiring to. Okay? How do we live up to that expectation? And how can we possibly create our own MIT in IMT in Nigeria, where you can now talk about MIT in America and IMT in Nigeria? And so this is my ambition. And that's why I'm trying to make sure that I address all the foundational issues, making sure that our programs are all well accredited, re-accredited, attracting new programs that are contemporaneous with this period, and reorientation of both our students and our staff. And then creating an environment, both infrastructurally, psychologically, and making sure that they have the conducive academic environment to thrive and excel. And so that's my goal.
All right. right. So, Professor Obodo.
Yes.
So, how would you say that we can actually stop this dichotomy? And if Nigeria does not stop it in the next decade, what do you think will be the effect on, workforce readiness and our development and agenda for Nigeria?
Well, like I said before, we have stopped it officially. Okay, we stopped it officially. As we speak, I have the MBTE dated 2013, where every polytechnic was directed to harmonize, whether you have a degree or whether you have a diploma, HND, to harmonize the employment skills, harmonize employment opportunities, harmonize everything. So we have officially done that. But I think what we are still dealing with now is how do we now make our polytechnics as attractive, is the word as attractive as our universities? Because the average student has the mindset that, oh, if I don't go to the university, I have not done well. But I believe that if we do what many developed countries have done in the world, where the TVET polytechnic graduates are earning higher in the society, okay, then you don't need anybody to help you with the campaign, because when it's all said and done, everybody is looking for where and how will I earn higher. And so you find that that will naturally attract many of these young people who are skilled, talented, to look at the polytechnics as the veritable academic channel to excel. I don't know if people are aware, when the government went to commission the Niger gas recently, there was an IMT student who developed a mobile filling station. And this guy could control the entire filling with his remote, everything in the filling station. And he brought it and placed it there. When the governor saw it, I said, operate it. And the young man was operating it. Every part of the filling station, like a model filling station. The governor gave him a scholarship. And so you can imagine, if we can attract somebody who will now come and help to develop this. The same thing with the young man who is producing a keke, a remote controlled keke. A keke that you can control with remote control. In IMT.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Obodo, for that clear and urgent briefing concerning the unresolved dichotomy between polytechnics and universities in Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to share some of the wonderful developments in the new IMT with you.
It's a pleasure to have you as well. And that's all we can take on the show today. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you for starting your morning with us. Remember, you can always be a part of our conversations by following our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. Keep watching. We're live on SLTV Channel 265. And from all of us here at Signature TV, thank you so much for joining us. I am Uchenna Chimdi Olwoha.
And I am Lillian Wali. Do have a great day.